Hello everyone and welcome back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. Thank you guys for subscribing to my channel. Thank you for your love, for your support. I appreciate each and every one of you that have supported me. I actually don't take it for granted. Thank you so much. If you are new, you're welcome. If you have not subscribed, please, I would appreciate if you hit on the subscribe button. It actually takes nothing for you to subscribe to my channel already. Please subscribe. I would appreciate if you would do that. Seriously, subscribe to my channel. And then if you want to register for my online classes, which I normally run every month, you can just see my number scrolling through the screen. Send me a message on WhatsApp. I'll give you the details of the classes we have available. You can follow me on all of my social media platforms: Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, all at Stylish Naija. Okay, so in today's video, this is actually a subscriber's request. Someone actually sent this picture during our live stream that we did earlier of this C-cut yoke. So I decided to just show how to cut it. It is a simple, it looks technical, but it is a very simple, there's actually a simple way, easier way rather, to go about it. So that's why I decided to show her and others that it will be helpful how to do this. So guys, let's just get started straight into the tutorial. Okay, so I have my pattern here, which I'm going to explain as we go along. I have two patterns, so it's a simple process, like I said. So the first one I have here, we're going to cut the first part, which is the bodice, like a tube. So I have my pattern here already. I'm going to explain this line that I have here. So this line is going to start as my start up line, which is like the, it's an off shoulder, a tube. So I'm using, you can use 5 inches or 6 inches. So I'm using 6 inches because it is an off shoulder. So I took that out. And then the next line I have here is my bust point line. So this is my bust point, and then this is my under bust, and then this is like my half cut or the waist. So this will now start like the chest area. So the next thing now, we're going to draft our bustier. So you take out, we're going to do our darts. So the measurement that I'm going to make use of, the bust is 36, my waist is 30, that's the waist, which is the half cut, and then the under bust is 28. So these are just like the 3 basic measurements here. Okay, so now let's just continue. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to mark my dart, which is 4 inches, bust span, which is 8. So I'll just take 8, you divide it into 4. I'm just going to just measure it like this. Use 4 inches, you divide it into 2. I'll mark it here, and then I'll take out my dart. So it is a simple process. I'm doing just like the easiest one. So I'll come to this under bust line. I'll mark 1 inch to this side, and then take 1 inch to this other side also, and then I'll connect them to those points. And then this 1 inch on this top part, which is like the chest area, I'm going to come out on this side by 1 inch, and then on this other side I'll just take half of an inch. It is a simple process. And then I'll connect it like this, and then I'll connect this, and then this 1 inch, I'm just going to extend it down, and then extend this down also. So you see, it is a simple process. And then we're just going to go ahead and blend. Okay, the next thing we're going to do now, we'll take out our full body measurement. So the full body's measurement here, I'm taking out the bust, which is 36. You divide 36 into 4. I'm going to have 9 inches. Remember, on this top side, we took out 1.5 inches, 1 inch on this side, and then half inch on the other side. So I'm going to add that back into my pattern. Because it is an off shoulder, I'm just going to add just like half of an inch. I'm going to use as my stitching allowance. So I'll mark it there like that. And then I'm going to come like this now to measure the armhole. Initially I told you guys that I took out 6 inches. So you put that into consideration when drafting the armhole. So the armhole, I'm using 9, which is 18. Half of my armhole is 9. The full round measurement is 18. So you use 9. I'll mark it to this point because you take out that 6 inches. Please don't forget to do that. And then I'll mark like this. And then on this side, I'm just going to do the normal armhole first. I'm still going to explain as we go along. Okay. So the next thing, I will take out the full bust measurement, which is 36. When you divide 36 into 4, you have 9 inches. I will mark my 9 inches here. So I'm going to lose some inches from here from cutting. I'll just assume that as a 1 inch. I'll add that back into my pattern, and then I'll add my stitching allowance, which is like 1.5 inches, and then I'll just mark it like this. And then the next thing, I'm going to come to my under bust. I told you, I said I'm using 28 inches. The other 28 inches, when you divide it into 4, you're going to have 7 inches. And you know we took out 1 inch from this side, okay? So bring that back into your pattern, which is 2 inches. You bring that back into your pattern, and then you add your stitching allowance. Depends on how many inches you want. And then I'll connect it like this. And then the waist measurement, which is the down part, the waist measurement is 30. When you divide 30 into 4, you have 7.5. You place your tape like this, and then I'm going to mark my 7.5 here, and then my 2 inches back into my pattern, and then my stitching allowance back into the pattern. You can see how simple it is to draft a tube. Okay, so now I'm not going to cut this out. I'm not cutting it out, so it will be easier. So the next thing, on this chest area, that's on this armhole area, I don't want my armhole to come like this. Since it is a tube, I want it slanted like this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to connect this to my armhole. I don't want this round armhole, so I want my armhole like a slope or like a slant. So in order for me to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my shoulder measurement. So my shoulder measurement is 14. Because it is an off shoulder, I'm not going to use that 14. I'm going to reduce it. So normally this 1.5 inches is already taken out. You understand? So that will now help me to reduce my shoulder measurement. So the next thing I'm going to do, instead of marking that 7 inches here, for my shoulder measurement. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to leave my armhole like this. I want my armhole sloped. So the next thing, I'm going to mark my shoulder measurement. So I'll mark 14, which is 7. It's divided into 2. You have 7 inches like this. So I'm not going to bother myself because it is a bustier. So this is going to go off. So that will help me to tighten that part. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my curved ruler like this, and then I'm just going to slope this into my armhole area like this. So I'll slope this into my armhole area. So I'm going to cut this off now. So like I said, I'm not cutting this, so I just want to so it is easier for me to explain. I'm not going to cut out the dart. I will not open it yet. So the next thing, now we're going to draft the yoke. It is a simple process of drafting the yoke. So you can see what we have. This is just like a basic body, you understand, okay? So the next thing, now we're going to work on this. The next thing you are going to do, I'm just placing this here. I don't need this side. What I need is the center part. So the first thing we're going to do now, you're going to determine how, so you can see my pattern. So you can see it is sitting here, and then this is my 6 inches that I took out. So you can see, if you take a good look at it, you can see it is on 6 inches point. So I'm going to mark that. I'm just going to go ahead now. I'll mark that here. So this is actually optional. If you want yours to be deeper, you can do that. So I'll mark the 6 inches here, so we'll use it as a guide. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to mark out our neckline. So you can see it is a high neckline. So we'll mark 3 inches here for the neckline. And then for the width of the depth, that's the width, the wideness, okay? So the next thing we're going to mark now is the depth of the neckline. So for the depth, I'm going to use about 1.5 inches for the front. So the back will be like 1 inch, okay? So I'm just going to connect this like this. I'll connect this, and then the next thing I'm going to mark now, after marking this, we're going to mark out the dart. That's the center part of that C-cut rope. So for this part, you are the one that is going to determine that. So you are going to check. I always advise for us to use the dart to check instead of marking something that is going to be bigger than the dart area. So we have 3 inches here. So that 3 inches, we're going to mark it here. So you're going to add like 3.5 inches because of stitching and turning. So I'm going to mark that 3 inches here on my this other pattern that I'll use for the yoke. I'll mark that 3.5 inches here like that. And then once I get to this line, which is like the armhole line, which is, from this point, now this is like the yoke from here to here. That's that top part. I use 6 inches. So you can use 8 inches. You can use, depends on how deep you want it to be. Okay. So on this part like this, I'm just going to come also. I will mark that same 3.5 inches, and then I'm going to connect it with my ruler like this. So after connecting it with my ruler, I'm going to come to my neckline part like this. So I'm going to cut this off. So this actually makes it easier for me, and then I'll make sure my slope. So this will actually make the neckline area easier for me. Okay, so I'll just cut out. Okay, so from this point, after cutting out the neckline, from this point, you are going to determine how wide you actually want it to be. You understand? So that is optional. You determine that. Depends on what you want. You can do 2 inches, you can do 1.5 inches, depends on how wide. You can just eyeball it. So for this, I'm just going to mark 2 inches here. That's from the neckline to this point. I'll mark 2 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do now, that 2 inches, I'm just going to give it like a sharp curve like this, to meet that 6 inches point that we marked. So this 6 inches point, it depends on what you want. If you don't want it to be 6 inches, I'm just going to go ahead and explain. If I don't want it to be 6 inches, I can decide to use 7 inches or 8 inches, so you understand. So that's why I'm doing this. So now this is 8 inches. Okay, so this same thing we did here, you're just going to make sure you create that slope like that to hit that point. You understand? So if we want to make use of this, you create it like this to hit this point. But since we're not making use of this, we're making use of this. So I hope you understand. So I'm trying as much as I can to make it simple and easy. So you mark it like this, and then you curve it in to your pattern like this. Okay, so you can see the cut. So the next thing we're going to do now, it is a simple process. We're going to cut this out. Most times I'll advise, before you cut it out, don't cut it on this exact line. You can give it a little bit of allowance like this. So you can see I added a little bit of allowance. So I'm going to explain that. So because this pattern, you just need to, and then I'm going to open this now, and then I'll take this pattern, I'll place it at the center, so you can see what we have, right? I'll place it here, and then I'll take a good look at it. Depends on what I have here. If I feel it's wide enough, fine. If I feel it's not wide enough, I'm just going to eyeball it. And then my armhole area, I'm going to make sure I check this armhole area properly. We use 6 inches. If you feel that that 6 inches is not long enough, you can decide to create your curve down. But why I use 6 inches is because this point, that's from my shoulder. When we were doing drafting the bustier pattern, we actually used 6 inches from the chest, that's from the shoulder to that chest area, was actually 6 inches. So that's why I use 6 inches. For instance, if you do 8 inches, still do 8 inches. So at the end of the day, I'm going to take a good look at it if I like it. So I think what I have here is okay. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll trim this properly now, and then see the outcome. So I'm going to place this like this, so you can see what we have now. So you can see that sharp cut. Why this place is looking like this, because we have not taken out our dart. So by the time we take out our dart now, it's going to blend properly. So you're going to have that sharp cut here. You can see, so that was why this part, you need to slope this part down. So I'll cut this out right now, and then place it for us to see. So if you want to cut out the back, and before I continue, it is a simple process. So for the tube, for the back, you are just going to cut the same thing, just the way you cut the front. That's how you cut the back. Just make sure you add your zip allowance to the back pattern. It's the same process. If you have been following me, you will understand what I'm trying to say. So I just cut both my back I'll cut my back and my front pattern together, and then the back I'm just using a normal dart, and then add my zipper allowance for my back pattern like this. So that's for the back. And then for the back yoke, it's still the same thing. For the back yoke, all you need to do is just add a zip allowance to your back yoke. So I'm trying to get a longer paper. So for the yoke of the back, it's still the same process. Just make sure that you have a longer pattern, that's a longer paper like this, and then make sure you have your zip. You just add a zip allowance to the back. So the back pattern, you cut it into two. So for the back neckline is not going to be as high as the front. So that's for the back. So you cut out two pieces. This is our zip allowance. So I hope you understand. So I'm just trying as much as I can to explain this. So I'll cut this now. So this is for our center pattern. This is how it's going to look like. And then our yoke is going to sit here. So that was why I was saying your yoke, that's the weight, it has to be the same. So that actually makes it easier. Note, before you do this, you are going to make sure that you must have finished stitching your tube. You stitch it together. This is just like a top stitch. This you are going to sew and turn. So if you want us to sew it in the next class, you can just drop a comment down for me. In case you understand it, most people understand it without the sewing, we can leave it. But if I get comments on sewing, then we can decide to sew it. So it's a simple process. You just stitch together, and then you attach this on top of it before you join the down part of your dress, both the back and for the front. Okay, so I have now come to the end of this tutorial. If you find this video helpful, please hit on the like button. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you in my next video. I hope this video was helpful to some.